right, I'm gonna be honest with you. When this was sent to us, I'll just say I have no idea what the heck this is. I don't remember, and if I do remember, this is gonna like reignite like old memory spots in my brain. It's just like those like sides of your brain where you're just not using it 100% of the time, and it starts to like dull, like just go gray, and you're just like, what was that again? And then all of a sudden, just a little thing just pops into your head, and you remember, like, all of a sudden it unlocks, like, core memories that you can recall. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot that.
Yeah.
It's happened to me a few times. How about you, Kate?
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, either way, let's go ahead and, this is a series called Worst Ever, and this is called HyperScan by Mattel. I remember Mattel. They made toys and stuff like that back in the day.
The funny thing, by the way, is I remember that core memory thing happening to me like last week, but I don't remember what it was.
Ain't that just something?
Yeah.
That's just oh.
It's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that, and then I'm like, what was that again? Fuck.
Gosh. So this is a Worst Ever HyperScan by Mattel on the channel called Ramirez. Don't know what the deal with this is, but this got a lot of upvotes on our Discord, so we're checking it out. Here we go.
Hey, do you like video games?
Yes.
Do you like collectible cards?
Kinda. Not really.
Well, have I got something incredible for you! A long time ago in the year 2006, Mattel, the makers of Barbie and Hot Wheels, entered the video game market with a revolutionary console known as the HyperScan. The HyperScan
Really?
isn't technically Mattel's first dip into console gaming. They released a system called the Intellivision way back in the late 70s. People fondly remember the Intellivision for its games library, graphics, and innovative add-ons. But somehow the HyperScan has fallen through the cracks of time, forgotten and unloved. Surely this must have been a mistake. Mattel is a massive company and they could do no harm, right? Well, folks, hold your toys real close, because we're about to enter a world of red lights, trading cards, and misery. The HyperScan, a CD-based system with some interesting bells and whistles. When you unfold its book-like design, you'll notice a few things. It feels super cheap and flimsy, and when you place it on a table, it doesn't lay flat. Good job, team! Notice that bizarre ruby red platform next to the top loading disc tray? That's the HyperScan's radio frequency identification, or RFID scanner. This gives the console the ability to read and write to collectible cards.
That's right, Pops! Traditional trading cards are old hat! Us new kids are into IntelliCards now!
Simply
What the
plop
hell?
an IntelliCard onto the card scanner and you can activate save data and unlock amazing new game features. Exciting! Now, we said at the beginning that this console came out in 2006, but let's put that into some context. The Xbox 360 had already been out for a solid year, and the PlayStation 3 was 1 month out from launch from the release of the HyperScan. Both the Xbox 360 and PS3 were known for establishing high-definition gaming for players across the world. Whether utilizing Blu-ray discs, online gaming, or featuring large storage media, they were truly the next big step in console gaming. But the HyperScan? It was standard definition. It couldn't go online. It didn't have any built-in storage. It used regular old CDs, a format long ditched by home consoles. Now, okay, sure, it wasn't of the same caliber of the Xbox 360 or PS3, but that doesn't matter, as long as playing games on it is responsive and fun. So, let's turn it on and have a look.
All right, we're all ready to go and play with the HyperScan. We've got a copy of X-Men in there, a bunch of cards ready, so let's go. And...
It doesn't start.
well, this HyperScan is broken. We heard this might actually be a problem, but no worry, folks. We actually have a whole other HyperScan ready to go.
Oh my
and...
Finally,
Yay.
the system turned on and the game is loading. This is taking a little while, but shouldn't be much longer, right? How has a minute passed and the system is still not done loading?
No.
How much longer could it possibly be? Almost at the end. It's still hanging on, but we're almost there. And here it goes. There's the HyperScan logo. And there's the logo for Marvel. And there's the logo for the company that made this game. And...
No, what?
That was 2
You're
minutes.
joking.
2 minutes
took
of
that
loading
long to
for
load the
intro
logos.
That didn't even start up the game. It took forever to load this disc. And folks, I'm not making this up. Directly after the loading screen, this system started to make this strange noise. It sounded like this.
Sounds
And
like a
then
record
the console
scratching.
died. It refused to read discs. Well, that's 2 dead consoles before we've even introduced the first game. That's a worst ever record. Turns out HyperScans are very prone to failure, and not just the optical drives, which are really bad. Even the composite AV cables can ruin your day if they go out. Now why, might you ask? Isn't it easy to replace them? Oh no, because on the HyperScan, the
freaking
AV
attached
cables
to
are
the system.
permanently attached to the body of the system.
Why?
If for some reason your AV cables fail like ours did, you're out of luck. Unless you have the tech know-how to open this thing up and re-secure working AV cables, if you have a broken HyperScan, it becomes a hyper doorstop. Every HyperScan system originally came boxed with a console, a game,
hurts
some
me.
of those fancy scannable cards, and one controller. I've used many a controller throughout the years on Ramirez, but none have been more questionable than this. The HyperScan console has a USB port. I've seen it, it's right here. But they didn't choose to use that port for controllers. No. Instead, they used an old-style 6-pin keyboard mouse input. I ain't seen one of these in a long time. Let's do some math. This console was released in 2006. This port was designed in 1987. Why would they use a
It's older than me, dude. Why?
18-year-old primitive input like this. If they were trying to save money, I could understand that, but the USB port is on the system anyway, so why not use it? But maybe it doesn't matter. What kind of input it has isn't really that big of a deal because the controller itself is nightmare rocket fuel. It has a variety of buttons, 2 shoulder bumpers that are squishier than wet moss, 2 triggers that are awkwardly placed, and a selection of face buttons that feel like stale discount jelly beans. And the D-pad? Son, there ain't a D-pad. Instead, you have a thumbstick, and that's gonna cause problems later on. The only thing I can't explain is what the USB port actually does. It's never used for anything at all. And now, after having seen all of the hardware trouble
Maybe
that
it was
we've
like a
encountered,
just in
and
case
knowing
thing
just
down the line.
Maybe it was like it's like, oh, you want to update this thing? Here you go. We'll send you an updating USB drive. It's like, why?
how poor this controller is, you would have to assume that the core function of reading cards off of the system, this console's sole unique feature, would at least be in a usable state. Well, here, you tell me if it works.
Killer cards can't hurt me at all.
The sandwich technique.
Okay, we finally
Less
found a
than a
console
George
that
Foreman
runs
grill
properly.
Yeah.
Yippee. Let's get into our first game, the original pack-in game for the HyperScan, X-Men. We start up the game and, oh, right, like you saw before, loading is a massive problem here. And for the sake of your sanity, we'll be cutting the many, many loading screens you have to sit through before you get into actual gameplay. You're welcome in advance. Just keep in mind that more than half of your time playing this game is spent waiting for things to load. Anyway, yeah, this is a bare-bones traditional one-on-one fighting game through and through. And while it is nice to see multiple characters from the X-Men universe presented here, even characters most have forgotten like Omega Red, the bulk of the whole experience is, well, you know how fighting games typically start off with you selecting a character? This game doesn't have that. Enter the cards. That pack of Intella cards we got all fresh and new with the system, well, these cards are not useless. In fact, they are essential to playing this game. If you happen to lose these cards, the games will not function because you don't have a character select screen at all. What you do have, though, is a character card. We happen to only get 2 characters in the box, so that means we will only be able to play with these 2 characters, Wolverine and Lady Deathstrike.
Yeah.
Okay, we've scanned our fighter, now let's get into the game, and, well, these graphics are freaking awful. I mean, look at this. They're peddling lackluster 2D graphics 3 whole generations into 3D consoles. This is shocking. And what the heck is all that loading for? Technically, the HyperScan is more powerful than the original arcade hardware used for X-Men Children of the Atom. That was over a decade before the HyperScan came out. Look at the difference. What possible excuse could they have for making something this shoddy? So it looks bad, everything is locked behind cards, and you can spend
Sounds
an
to me like
eternity
Mattel
waiting
hired
to
a group
play.
of people who'd never made video games and told them to make a video game console or something.
Yeah, it's like you.
Do you want us to what?
It's like, this makes no sense. Why would you make this? Why would you do this?
Why would you not hire people who know how to make video games? We trust you. We have faith in you. Why?
But once you're into the game, surely it must play good, right? Right? Imagine, if you will, a fighting game that suffers input lag that is measured in seconds, movesets that make no logical sense at all, AI that is just as scared and confused as the player. That's X-Men on the HyperScan. But that's only half of the story. Everything you do in this game earns you experience. After each round that you complete, you scan your card on the system and build up your character's stats and level. That makes the character cards also memory cards. Kinda cool,
The dog
right?
dropped
And to
another
add to the
carpet
fun,
bomb.
each time you want to access a training level, change a character, modify a fight, or attempt a finishing move, well... You gotta get up out of your seat, walk over to the console, find your card, and clumsily scan it as fast as you can. Because in some cases, this can be timed. The HyperScan is too busy to wait around while you fumble with its scanner. If you are too slow, you'll miss your chance and the game moves on. They could have easily put a card scanner on the controller, but instead, they designed it like this. What a dumb choice, but at least you've got this stupid slot in the controller to stick your card into, which doesn't even hold the card up all that well and ends up falling out incredibly easily. This whole experience with this one game is daunting. An epic force of poor ideas and concepts rolled into one. But this was only the game that was included in the box. They sold other games with their own booster packs. And if you'll indulge me, I would like to take a few
They
seconds to
basically
really
figured out how
tear
to do
into
loot
this money.
boxes before loot boxes were starting to become a big thing.
Basically, yeah, that's what it seems like.
It's like, I got an idea that will combine video games with having to buy card packs that are expensive as hell to get the stuff you want to play as in the video games.
Money-grabbing mechanic. Let me make this totally clear. The game disc, this CD right here, has all of the game data on it. The Intella cards serve only to unlock these features. So, for a fighting game like X-Men, the cards serve as a sort of physical lockout, preventing you from exploring the full game. It's basically physical DLC! My nightmare! In card form! If you want to play with more characters and explore more of the game, you need to buy booster packs. Random collections of cards you may or may not have already owned, accumulating tons of useless doubles, triples, and quadruples just for the chance to get something you actually want. Hey, that sounds familiar. The HyperScan was way behind the curve in lots of ways, but when it came to loot boxes, boy, was it ahead of the curve. You could purchase pack after pack, hoping for a specific fighter or a move for a fighter you already own. But maybe you never get that card and end up instead with a bunch of these irritatingly dumb training levels. Look at this. What is this even supposed to be? Whoa, that was $10 well spent. And of course, cards aren't compatible with other games. Each title requires its own set. The X-Men game alone has over 100 cards. A booster pack contains only 6 cards. Do you comprehend how many packs you'd have to buy for a chance to get everything you need to play the game fully? It's an endless rabbit hole you keep spiraling down because you're already invested, so you may as well buy one more pack to make that game better. Just another one, and another, and another, and another. You could spend hundreds of dollars on a single complete game. Even if you could collect every single card and therefore get the most full experience of what the game has to offer, X-Men is simply a terrible experience with controls that are borderline unplayable. The input lag is atrocious. It feels like I'm screaming to a friend in another room what buttons to push. Hey, Adam! Push the B button! Good! But did the developers just make a bad game, or is the console to blame? Well, let's find out with our next game, Marvel Heroes. Where do I even begin? The game is a complete mess. You have cringe-inducing visuals and poorly written dialogue encapsulated in shoddily scraped-together comic book sequences. All of this is done in an attempt to produce some kind of reason for everything to be going on. None of it flows, and none of it works. Unlike X-Men, this isn't a fighting game, but instead it's a platformer side-scroller beat-em-up. The cards are used in a totally different way here, but somehow it's worse than the X-Men game. Look, you can get Wolverine in X-Men and play through his whole campaign. All you need is his character card. But in Marvel Heroes, you might have a character card for the Hulk, but you may not have his story card. They look exactly alike, but they don't work the same way. Here is how that works. If you've got a story card, congratulations! You can play whatever that story is. You play as a character dictated by the story. Typically, it's 3 boring levels with mindless enemies being tossed at you with 2 smaller bosses until you beat a main boss. Boring. If you don't have a story card though, you can still play the game by making your own story. Kinda. Get out your pack of paid DLC nubbins, choose a character, pick an area, use an atmosphere, throw in some villains or bosses, and there you go. Your own custom content. Sound fun? It's not. This random shuffling of cards rarely ever makes sense. Without the tiniest touch of story, it's just bland design laid on top of bland design.
My God.
The areas...
The Hulk just murdered the California raisins. I guess they ain't gonna be singing "I Heard Through the Grapevine" anymore.
always look dull and uninspired. Now, we had a booster pack, and luckily, we got an atmosphere card, but all it did was turn everything to night, which just looks like someone lowered the brightness on your TV. Cool. The controls are just as bad as in X-Men, but this game seems to be far more glitchy. Jumping from window to window with the Hulk looks bad and sounds worse. No matter what character you play as, nothing ever feels right. Captain America has a section where he needs to climb up trees, and honestly, look at this. This is ridiculous. The trees look like they're part of the background. But honestly, it's that whole random stage creation thing that is inexcusable. We used an area card with the Thing from Fantastic Four, and we were instantly loaded into a level that was broken. I tried for half an hour to find some solution to get past this hole in the ground, but absolutely nothing I tried worked. Nothing! There seemed to be no way at all to beat this stage. Soulless and broken random mission generators are one thing, but when you're charging for the cards that make this random system work, when it really doesn't, that's when you're ripping people off. This has seriously got to be one of the worst games I've ever seen sold with a legitimate license from a major company like Marvel on board. So of course, when I saw our next game, a seemingly new IP produced exclusively for the HyperScan, folks, I was immediately scared. Bear witness as we venture into the Interstellar Wrestling League, another one-on-one fighter. This looks a little confusing, so let's have the game tell us what the plot is about.
Greetings and salutations, everyone! I'm Idaho Jones, ringmaster and commentator for the Interstellar Wrestling.
Commentator? I
hate it.
I want this thing to die in a fire. I want to grind that bastard up and turn him into hash browns.
League, haha. I've sent a message to all wrestlers in the galaxy. Who is the biggest? Who is the baddest? Who is the meanest? Who bakes the tastiest pies? No, strike that last one. There can only be one king of the ring. Who will it be? Join me for fantastic IWL action.
Beautiful intro, ain't it? It's like watching a...
I need alcohol after watching this. I need a serious like shot of
It's like
vodka.
they tried to do something that they thought was going to be cool, like Chex Quest back in the day, but they failed horribly.
Oh yes, they did. I can't believe this, dude.
Slideshow about what the cutscene might actually look like when they were done the game. They didn't even clear this potato guy's cutout properly. That's just a bad Photoshop. But this title is special. Meet the only game not created by the company that developed the other games on this console. Interstellar Wrestling League was made by Digital Eclipse. Now, if that name sounds familiar, it's because they've been responsible for some really great titles and game collections.
Okay.
But how did the company fare on their only HyperScan outing? Not that good.
I'm going to
You
go with
gotta
it was
hand it to
probably the
Digital
console's
Eclipse.
fault. then.
This may in fact be
More-
the best
yeah.
game on the console. But don't think for a moment that this means that Interstellar Wrestling League is actually good. It simply proves something that I suspected about the HyperScan from the very beginning. The console is capable of delivering a half-decent experience. This title has less input lag, making it far easier to control than its cursed brethren. It's not perfect, frankly it's terrible, but at least when you push a button, the character on screen reacts appropriately. And as for loading, yeah, it still has a lot of loading screens, but they seem much faster than anything else you'll play on the HyperScan. So it's got some things right, sure. But where it fails hard. The game is virtually identical to X-Men. You'll need multiple cards and booster packs to get more characters and basically complete the game. But where this game dips just a bit below X-Men is in its ability cards. During a match, a blow-up referee will show up that pauses the game. This happens at random during an active fight. You'll need to pull out a card that grants your character some ability and place it down. Failure to do this results in your opponent gaining an ability that they can use against you, leaving you with nothing. So you better hope that you happen to have a card nearby.
Oh, looks like I don't. Guess I need to go out and buy more booster packs to make my angry space wrestler fight better.
How about we move on? Let's dip back into the world of licensed properties in Marvel by playing a game called Spider-Man. This was a Toys R Us exclusive, so it's gotta be good, right?
No.
Nope.
The title's Toys R Us exclusivity meant that you got an extra card in the game box. This means nothing. Now, unlike the other games, you don't actually need to worry about character cards. Well, I mean, you do. You should have at least one character card, and that card should be Spider-Man. If you lose this card, you cannot save the game. So don't lose this card. Overall, this is a strange game. It's kind of a platformer, but has enclosed missions that take place in levels that are small chunks of New York. There are a variety of stages to choose from, but you can't play all of them because most of these levels are physically locked behind cards, meaning you'll need to go out and buy a bunch of booster packs to find them to play the whole game. Isn't that cool? You just bought a game disc, brought it home, and now you need to go back out and collect a whole bunch of useless cards at random for the chance to play all of these really crappy levels. Woo-wee! Mattel was onto something real cool here. And trust me, none of these levels are worth purchasing extra cards for. They consist of mundane and sometimes ridiculous tasks that seem to have no solution. Best I can tell is that we are missing a specific power-up card to make certain levels completable, but for the ones you can complete, does delivering pizza sound like fun? How about Spider-Man playing firefighter? Spidey doesn't have water on him, so I guess he'll just shoot his spider webs at the flames and... Oh, that actually works. If a building is falling apart to pieces, Spider-Man is a junior city architect and is quick to solve the crumbling problems by shooting webs at cracks in the walls, which actually seems to hold the building together. For real. If you ask me, seems the game
his webs are
designers
super
got
strong.
really lazy and could only think of Spider-Man shooting web at things as a game mechanic. But eventually, we do see some other levels, like this one, where there's a blimp and Spider-Man is saving people before they fall. So of course, they perfectly animated people grabbing onto our web-slinging hero. But don't worry, you still get to face off against Spider-Man's most intelligent and ruthless foes, like Dr. Octopus, whose evil scheme that Spider-Man must thwart seems to be throwing artwork out of a museum that Spider-Man needs to catch carefully. Is that even really all that illegal? I mean, wouldn't you just get a fine or charged or something? Couldn't you have just, I don't know, dealt with the security guards? Did Spider-Man really need to go out of his way to take care of this museum thing? Seriously? By this point, folks, I think you can see that the HyperScan is a hyper-wreck. But we've got one more game to wrap up the whole library of this console. Oh, that's right! There are only 5 games that were ever publicly released for the HyperScan.
Gee, I wonder
because
why.
this system was canceled, and I'm not making this up, after just a couple of months on store shelves. But I digress. Time to play Ben 10.
Oh my
a show
God,
made into a
really?
video game on a console nobody wanted. Brace yourselves. This is one licensed property that in theory should be a perfect fit for the HyperScan. The original TV series is about a boy who has the ability to morph into aliens. So you'd think while you're playing the game, you just pull out an alien card and scan it to turn into whatever is on the card. It's a simple idea, and I think anyone could get behind it. Heck, even I think it sounds pretty interesting. Ben can turn into fun aliens and players can collect the alien cards. But that's not what they did. They somehow made it more complex. Not only are there alien cards, but there are also project mods, attack mods, defense mods, speed mods, power mods, villain defense, help, and ultimate cards. Are you kidding me? Why did you need so many?
Why?
That's my question. Why? Why would you do this? This is pain. This is absolute pain.
They somehow found a way to make it so frustrating and confusing to know what cards do what at any given moment that you don't want to bother using any of them at all. But how does the base game play? Well, it's a platformer, so what does a platformer need to do correctly? Attack, jump, move left or right? This game somehow fails to do all of these things. Ben 10 has the most input lag from all of the games I've played. We're talking a good 1.5 seconds from pressing the jump button to actually seeing a character jump. But time delays and button pushes aren't your only problem. Ben 10 has the worst loading times too, but we're not just talking about loading between levels here, we're talking about the one thing that Ben should be able to do on the fly: switching between alien forms. The console seems to be incapable of playing the game and scanning a card at the same time. So when you are given a chance to change, which requires you to stand on a platform, the game has problems and will lock up for a moment. Oh, and that's not even the end of it. To make that frustrating experience even worse, once you found some way to get the card to actually be scanned by the console, the game immediately freaks out and starts blasting a loud alarm for you to remove the card. All of this, by the way, requires you to find a card in the game before the card can actually be scanned. Confusing? Good, because it's gonna get worse. It's a totally broken experience from start to finish. The levels are mostly stupid obstacle courses with sparse enemies placed around, and with that awful input lag, you're going to be falling to your death a lot. So by this point, you'd probably think the game's only saving grace is that you can have free will to change up the levels as you want, with whatever characters you have in your deck, right? Right? Well, no. We got to a level where whatever card we scanned, Ben always turned into the same alien. And they explained it away with this ridiculous exposition from his grandpa Max saying that the machine is kind of busted. You know, like the HyperScan. So the game seemed to really think we had to be this blue and black alien thing, but it had no special abilities that we could see that made the level any easier. When it turns back into Ben, you can finish the tasks with no problem. What is the point of collecting all of these cards when they don't even do what they're supposed to do when you scan them? That's the point of this entire console, isn't it? I've seen plenty of poor quality systems, games made to scam and steal money from people, rip-offs that trick customers into buying something that isn't what is written on the box.
Yeah.
But with the HyperScan, you're looking at Mattel, an enormous company that actually made a console in the past that people enjoyed, the Intellivision. The bulk of the games on the HyperScan are lazy cash grabs, a total slap to the face of anyone who dared buy this hunk of junk. If it's not breaking down, scanning the cards improperly, or struggling to play discs, it's controlling badly and putting you in a constant state of rage stage like no other console before it. So heed my warning, friends. That shiny, glowy red ring seems to be welcoming and enchanting, but hidden underneath all that plastic is a vicious chunk of gaming history best left forgotten. That is the HyperScan.
Wow.
I'm glad I never had that.
I know how you could have fun with it.
Throw it at a wall.
Yeah, just grab it by that permanently attached AV cable and like see how far you can throw it.
Yeah. Like, dude, you threw it like 50 feet. Nice. Oh, man. That hurt. That literally caused me physical pain.
It's no wonder we never heard of it if it was canceled in just a couple of months. Pretty sure in 2006 I was probably, let's see, 2006.
I was 17, 18. I just graduated high school.
I would have been playing Okami around that time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
So that was my PlayStation 2 game of choice when it came out for quite some time. And renting Bully from the video store was another one.
Oh, okay.
I had fun with in 2006.
Very cool.
I think San Andreas was out by then too, so I think I played a lot of San Andreas.
Well, that's good. San Andreas is a good one. It's one of the best GTA games. So by that point, I was, I still was. Gosh, what? Oh yeah, by then I was like saving up money to buy the PlayStation, like the PlayStation 3. Especially by the time this came out. By the time this came out, I'd saved up like $400 to get my PlayStation 3, and then the PlayStation 3 released, and we all know how that went.
So I didn't
Absolutely god awful.
Well, I didn't actually get a PlayStation 3 for a long time after it released.
I didn't either. That's the thing.
What I did was I still had just PlayStation 2 up until 2007, and then when I graduated, I got a bunch of graduation money that I then went and used to get an Xbox 360 because my friend Lauren, who was also my third key manager at GameStop, was like, dude, you gotta play Gears of War with us. And I was just like, okay.
And the rest is history.
Seems pretty cool, so that's when I got a 360 Elite.
Yeah.
And then whenever I finally moved down to the other GameStop, the manager there, Shane, was just like, dude, why do you like the Xbox so much, man? The PlayStation 3 is freaking amazing. And I was like, I don't know. I was like, just, got Gears of War to play with people. Like,
well, yeah.
And I ended up saving up for a PlayStation 3 after Shane convinced me, and then I freaking loved my PlayStation 3. I just stopped playing the 360 at that point.
Yeah, the PlayStation 3, here's how that went for me, like, trying to get one. I go to the GameStop, and there's, like, a line of, like, 50 people already there. And I'm like, oh, man. And then I was like, how many are they getting? 10. Then why are there 50 people in line? It's like, they ain't got nothing else to do. And here was the kicker for me. There was a guy who worked for GameStop at that time. And he, through coercing his friends to do it, they all signed up early, and he got like 15 PlayStation 3s. He got a loan out, and he bought like 15 PlayStation 3s, and he sold them all on eBay for like $1,200, $1,400.
Hopefully someone at GameStop found out he did that, because that is in like the GameStop like employee agreement. You were not allowed to do that kind of thing.
Oh, from what I understand, he did get caught, but at the same time, I didn't believe him. I didn't believe him when he told me that he had like 15 PlayStation 3s. And he's like, come with me. I was like, where are we going? We go to his car. He opens up the trunk of his car. PlayStation 3, PlayStation 3, PlayStation, just like stacked in there.
Damn.
And I was just like, holy shit. He's like, you want one? I'm like, how much? He's like, 700. Like, wait, it's like, that's the is that a 20 gig or a 60 gig? He's like, oh, that's the 60 gig, man. If you want I didn't get any 20 gigs, but like, if you want a 60 gig, you can get one here for like $700. I'm like, the list price is like $500. He's like,
I thought they were 600 when they came out for the 60 gig.
well, I
So
think actually that's what it was. But I just remember like telling him,
I think it was 600 for the 60 and 500 for the 20.
Yeah. So anyway, I asked him, I was just like, so what? He's like, I'm selling these all on eBay, man, and I've already got like a bunch of buyers already. So if you don't want one or you can't get one right now, and I'm like, I can't afford it, dude. I have like 400 saved up. And he's just like, all right, closes his trunk, locks it, and then we go back to class. And I just remembered, just like for the rest of the day, I was like looking out at his car, and I was just like, nah. It's like, nah, I ain't doing that shit. I ain't doing that shit.
He's not very smart by telling people he just is carrying around that many expensive pieces
well,
of
here's the
equipment.
thing. He told me because he trusted me. That was the thing. He trusted me, and he was right to trust me because I didn't do anything. I also didn't tell anybody else, except I'm telling y'all right now. But
Yeah,
it's been almost what 20 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, but Kate, have you ever been scammed by something like that you thought was going to be one thing, turned out to be something completely different, that just completely screwed you over and screwed you out of a shit ton of money?
I can't think of anything right now.
Well, that's how it goes. Honestly, I've been screwed out by several things that I thought were going to be like one thing, turned out to be something else, and I got screwed out of a shit ton of money.
I can only think of one thing.
And what's that?
Epic Games.
Ah, right. Paragon. The thing he is still holding a grudge over to this day because they still haven't given him back his money. They still haven't.
They never will.
Yep. So there you go. Anyway, that was the worst ever, the HyperScan by Mattel by Ramirez. We hope that you all enjoyed, and we hope to see y'all in the next one. But till then, I'm Nate.
I'm Kate.
I am Nick.
Y'all be good people. Take care. Bye-bye.